5, 4, 3, 2, and yeah.
Good evening and welcome to our audience here and to those of you that are watching at home. I'm Ted Owens with the Truckee Chamber of Commerce, and I will be your moderator tonight and tomorrow evening. This is the first of 2 candidate forums being sponsored by the Contractors Association of Truckee Tahoe PAC, by the Tahoe Sierra Board of Realtors, and by the Truckee Chamber of Commerce. These forums are made possible with the generous cooperation by our media partners, Moonshine Inc. and the Sierra Sun. Tonight's forum is being televised on Tahoe Truckee Media channels 18 and 118 and live streamed at tahoetruckeemedia.org. The opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the positions of the Tahoe Truckee Media, the program sponsors, or the town of Truckee. We ask all candidates and members of the audience to please silence your phones. I want to see people doing it. Okay, good. Tonight's questions have been submitted by the community and vetted by a committee including TTM, Moonshine Inc., and the Sierra Sun. Questions submitted may not be asked verbatim, and questions asked may have been compiled and edited from several submissions on the same subject. Asking the questions this evening will be Alex Huft of Moonshine Inc. Alex, welcome. I hope I said that correctly. And tonight we will be featuring candidates from the boards of Tahoe Forest Hospital District and the Truckee Tahoe Airport District. The speaking order tonight will begin with a candidate chosen by a random number generator, and the format is as follows. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make an opening statement. Next, the candidates will be asked questions by Alex of Moonshine Inc. All candidates will have the opportunity to answer each question. Answers should be no more than 1 minute and 30 seconds in length. The order of answering will rotate with each question. After the question and answer period, we will offer an opportunity for rebuttal, and this is optional to the candidates. You're not obligated to offer up a rebuttal, but you may if you like. 1 minute will be allotted to each candidate who wants to offer a rebuttal. Following the rebuttal opportunity, each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. And to the audience, please hold any applause until the very end of the segment. Now, due to my association with the Tahoe Forest Hospital District, I will hand over the MC duties to Jessica Penman, CEO of the Truckee Chamber. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. We're going to go ahead and start with the Tahoe Forest Hospital District. This election, there are 2 open seats, so voters may choose up to 2 candidates. Alice Wong, we will start with you. You will have 1 minute to make your introductory statement. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. As she said, my name is Alice Wong. I'm a registered nurse and a longtime resident of Truckee. Keith and I worked here. We raised our family here. We got our health care here. And we retired here. In 2016, I was elected to the Tahoe Forest Hospital Board of Directors, where I've had the privilege of serving as the chair for the past 5 years. I seek re-election to promote the goals of the district's strategic plan, with improving access to care being paramount. I seek re-election to continue to serve on the committee that is overseeing the national search for our next chief executive officer. When re-elected, I will promote a culture of collaboration, accountability, and transparency. I respectfully ask that you vote to continue for me to serve and advance the health excellence for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Next up, we'll have Robert Darshinkovich. Close enough. Go ahead. You may proceed.
All right. Good evening. Thank you to hosts. Thank you for everyone who's attending and those that are watching virtually. My name is Rob Darshinkovich, and I'm running for Tahoe Forest Hospital District Board of Directors. For the last 9 years, I have been the co-founder and a chief medical officer of a school-based telehealth program providing mental health and physical health to children. We cover about 3 million children in 15 states. Also an ER doc that sees patients and a 20-year resident here. I believe in access. I really believe in making sure that you can see your clinician, get the care that you need. I really believe in well-being, really being the well-being of the community. Is Tahoe Forest System answering the needs of this community? And are we looking after the people taking care of us, and making sure that the staff of Tahoe Forest Hospital are really being supported? I also love community connection.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
And next up, we'll have Bob Barnett.
Thank you. My name is Bob Barnett. I'm running for
Make sure your mic is on.
Good point. Thank you. My name is Bob Barnett. I'm running for re-election to the board. I'd like to introduce myself by sharing my qualifications that I found have added value to the board decision-making process. My college education was in business and economics. I've been a lifelong investor. My law degree was from UC Berkeley, and that laid a foundation for many decades as a trial lawyer in the medical legal field. Finally, my 3 years board experience was challenged by COVID, rapid growth, and burnout. I struggled with these issues and in the end learned what works and what doesn't work. What works is collaborative and transparent leadership. Going forward, first task, select collaborative CEO. Second, continue to build collaborative leadership and bottom-up management. And third, promote special projects, improve access, support clinicians, seek state-of-the-art equipment. Thank you. I think I got Rob the 3 seconds here.
That brings us to our question and answer portion of the forum. Please remember to keep your answers to 1 minute and 30 seconds. And audience, please remember to hold any applause till the end of the questions. Rob, we're going to go ahead and start with you, and I will turn it over to Alex.
Hi, candidates. You've got this. The hunt for the district's new CEO is on. What are key qualities that should be kept in mind?
For the CEO, you want someone that can be a good leader. And what I mean by that is someone that has able to listen to the constituents, the people that he or she represents, can have clear communication, really understanding, processing the feedback the community has, understanding how that lays into the plan. When I say the plan, I'm talking about the general plan of Truckee, 2040 plan, how it works to grow in our system, and also listening to the quality that we need to help our constituents live healthy lives. If our CEO can have that ability to make sure that we can communicate that, that is going to go a long way to build trust and to build care and really show that we are truly a great healthcare system.
Thank you. Bob, we'll go ahead and have you go next.
Leadership is a major issue, and we've transitioned from a CEO that was more of a top-down governance, and what we're seeking now is collaborative, transparent leadership. We found that is the solution to many of our problems. The qualities that we've looked at include things like emotional intelligence, their knowledge and expertise. Communication skills are important. They've got to be able to listen. They need critical thinking, integrity and accountability. So these are the kinds of things we need. Plus, we need someone who has the ability to inspire and unite us. Communication with the community is really important, as well as keeping an open mind and an open heart to the physicians and the staff people, because you never know where the next good idea is going to come from. And we need someone who will be listening to all the ideas out there so that they can sort them out. We want somebody involved in our community so that they're doing things outside the hospital with our partners like Town of Truckee and with the other organizations that we interact with from the airport board. We need people who understand the transportation problems in this area.
Thank you, Bob. Alice.
Okay, our next leader, who will it be? Well, hopefully it'll be someone who's engaging, who inspires us to do better, someone who has experience in working together with 5 generations, because that's what we have in the health system. We have the veterans, and then we have Generation Z, the millennials, and we need someone that can bring them together with a common focus to get the work done. Engaging can be a variety of ways, certainly to be out there with your face in front of everybody so they know who you are, opening your door and letting people come in and talk to you, giving you ideas of what they're thinking about in terms of care or progress in our various services. I think also being a listener and a communicator. It's one thing to hear, it's another thing to listen, and that you're not only listening to the words, but the feeling behind it. Because oftentimes, if you have not heard that feeling, you can alienate that individual from coming to talking to you in the future. So again, someone who listens, someone who is very clear with what they want. Certainly he has, whoever our leader is, be a he or a she, will have ideas that they want to present to us to get a barometer of what's happening in our district. So I hope that.
Thank you, Alice. For the next question, we're going to start with Bob.
Not only has the population expanded tremendously in the Tahoe Truckee proper, but we also have patients and clients coming to Tahoe Forest Hospital from all over for myriad reasons. That said, we're seeing difficulty in people accessing care, sometimes waiting months to see a doctor. There's likely not one silver bullet solution, but what do you think the top priorities should be?
Let's start with the numbers. In 2015, there were about 50,000 patient visits. Last year, there were 150,000 patient visits. That's a significant increase, and it's been a challenge to keep up with that. One of the things that are limitations that we have to look at are our facilities. And we haven't been able to put buildings on our campus, really, because we want to respect the town of Truckee and their desire to keep the small town feeling. So we've had pretty novel ways to find the space problem, because in order to get in more patients, we've got to be able to have the doctors, and they have to have the space to see the increased volume of patients. At the same time, we've had to recruit new doctors to come in, and the wait times are going down, which is the good news. They were in the area of 30 to 80 days about 3 years ago. Now some of the new doctors that have come in can be seen within 10 to 15 days. So there is progress being made. I think everyone within the AC and the administration are very acutely attuned to this problem. We've got people, staying awake at night trying to figure out how we do this.
Thank you, Bob. We'll go to you next, Alice.
All right. Access to care has been a problem. It's been a problem since the pandemic. And we had people coming up here to live in their second home so they can be out and about in fresh air. Some of them have decided to stay. As we've seen with some of the rural hospitals, their services have declined or been eliminated, so they come to us for care. And we are struggling, and we're looking at a variety of ways that we can accommodate these individuals or anybody that needs our care. Certainly, one of the things that we have done is we have increased our number of urgent cares. So if you're sick and you need to see someone and you can't get into your primary care provider, then there's the urgent care. And we're making it simple. You can go online and with 1 or 2 clicks, you can get an appointment in urgent care. You might not get it when you want it, but you'll get it soon enough. The other thing that we're looking at is a program where we have a group of our providers and our staff working together to look at where are the efficiencies, where are the open rooms that we can use. Certainly finding providers is not an easy task. So we have looked at using office space that we have that used to be for non-patients, now turning that into offices and exam rooms. Again, you know what we've bought. So there's where we're going.
Thank you, Alice. And Rob.
Thank you. People want to see their primary care doctor, and they're struggling to see that here today. But really, my question is, as you mentioned, is what are the problems? What are really the problems? As someone who gets healthcare, why are people going down the hill? Why are many people coming from other places here? I'm glad to hear that there is discussion of getting more clinics, getting more staff. But what are the other issues? I think as being on the board, if elected, that is the job, to know what are the issues we have that we really have to solve together. And when I say solve together, I mean as a community. We have to build. How do we build smartly with community partners? What are the other community partners that can help us in alleviating care? And more importantly, what do we really need to care for the community? I'm really impressed with the Community Health Index of understanding what are the goals. These are goals of how to keep this community healthy. And so what are the best impact as a board member that we can build, and not just build reactionary to what's happened in the last couple of years? What are we going to build in the next 16 years to meet the 2040 plan?
Thank you. For the next question, we'll start with Alice.
Chief of Staff Dr. Joy Koch has noted that there are profoundly low satisfaction scores with high burnout rates among medical staff, and that is an ongoing issue. What are the main drivers causing this burnout, and what solutions do you see being effective?
What causes do I see as burnout? I think you have to really ask the individual providers. There are certain common things that are causing burnout, not being satisfied with the job that you have, that you're not getting that gratitude for doing the things that you want to do with your patients, and even being able to do those things. Put a constraint on how they are practicing, which isn't how they left medical school with. Also, the hours that they're putting in to get their jobs done. And it's not just seeing the patients, but it's doing the documentation. And then, of course, it's all personal kind of things that are going on. So you've got your life balance out of whack, and having to look at that. What does the organization do? We can take a look at what is it in our facility that is challenging you to get your work done, or challenge you to get joy out of what you do. And I think those kind of open discussions, having someone who can feel the empathy and say, I understand, or I felt that too. Let's talk about it. Let's see what we can do. Groups talking about what they're doing is really helpful. You know, when you have someone who has gone through the same thing you do or feel the same, and you're talking, you can get some of the ideas of how I can balance my life again. I am hopeful in some of the things that we have done at the hospital have decreased
Thank you, Alice.
burnout.
Next, let's hear from Rob.
Thank you. Medicine's always changing. You know, I've done this for 20 years, 24 years, and it's always changing. And, you know, doctors just want to do what's right. And they just want the tools to make them do the care that they want. And what a healthcare system to do is just support them. And you do that by listening, getting feedback. What are the barriers? What do you need? What's hard? It's always going to be hard. It has been hard. As leadership, how does that fit into our bringing that expertise? What's it going to take to get that, make the hospital successful? We have to have a hospital successful. How are we going to support the staff to make that? Clear communication up, clear communication down. That's what I've learned in my experience. Making sure that you've heard and you address that, bring that to them, and actually own it. And you own it, and you work together to make it better, because it's always going to change. You know, I hope technology will make things always easier. Sometimes it doesn't. But working together and hearing each other and working to a common goal, which is make this community as healthy as could be, that's what makes healthcare exciting.
Thank you. And Bob.
This is an issue that I've struggled with and looked at pretty closely. I think you have to start with the definition of burnout. And burnout is generally recognized as feeling isolated and under stress with no outlet. So if you use a box analogy, it's kind of like someone is put in a box, the problems are on the walls around them, and all they're doing is hitting against these walls, and the problems get greater and greater, and the person isolates and spirals down. So that's a specific problem that can be addressed. First, when we recognize that problem, we set up a lot of counseling for those who might be feeling it. But also systemically, things have to change because you recognize that burnout when somebody has a cry for help. And what's the cry for help? You're not listening. And what that means is I have an important problem, it's stressing me, and I feel isolated with that problem. So they're bouncing around, spiraling down. And what we found is that the solution to that is engagement and collaboration. It does start by listening. And then management has to engage and collaborate with reasonable persons who identify legitimate problems. We need bottom-up management, and we need engaging and collaborative leadership at all levels. If you get a chance, we have dyadic leadership and...
Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
For the next question, we'll start with Rob.
There are those who believe the current U.S. healthcare system is focused more on disease than wellness. Where do you think Tahoe Forest lies within this spectrum?
I love this question. Our healthcare system focuses on sick, and that's important. If you're sick, you have a heart attack or a stroke, you need that care. There is no doubt. We have primary care, preventative care. And that we're at a unique time in history where that we value-based care, it is the time for primary care and preventative care to step in. Let's be smart about it. We live in Tahoe, Truckee. We don't live in LA. This is a unique population with unique needs. As I mentioned, there's a community health index that the clinicians, people who are working here, are discovering what's important, right? No one really smokes here, so that's a pretty good one so far. Alcohol use, substance abuse, people who don't have insurance or underinsured trying to get insurance. This is identified. So if we are truly to make a difference in this community, let's understand what this community needs as a whole, working in the dyadic of making it a great operations of great hospital with great clinical team members together. Let's work together, solve the problems, look at the problems, and work together, find really great solutions.
Thank you. We'll go to Bob next.
Thank you. Wellness is tremendously important to the health and well-being of our community, and we are really focused on that. We have a wellness center. I don't know if you know that, but if you go on the website, you can see in the wellness center what our offerings are. They're everything from food selection, their exercise, yoga. Part of all this is the cardiac rehab program, which teaches not only physical exercise, but healthy living habits. And the key to healthy life, we all know, has to do with things like diet, exercise, good mental health, good social connections. And that's known here in this hospital, and at every level, people are working on those issues with their patients and collaborating with them. We're also looking at community outreach so that we can bring that to people who aren't actually patients here. And I think we are not a healthcare facility that just focuses on sick. I think we are, that prevention is an important part of what our family practitioners do. They talk about how they work with their individual patients on lifestyle changes that leads to their health, and it's a key and important part of the health care that's provided here.
Thank you. Alice.
Could you repeat that question?
There are those who believe the current U.S. healthcare system is focused more on disease than wellness. Where do you think Tahoe Forest lies within this spectrum?
On the continuum, we're just about in the middle. We have done such great acute care when people have needed to be in the hospital. If you think about back in the day when people had hip replacements and knee replacements, they were in the hospital for 4 and 5 days, and they might stay for rehab afterwards. Now you go home the next day. So again, that population is shifting. We don't have as many acute beds needed, and our community is able to take care of things in the office, oftentimes with medicines and modalities that they can do ambulatory-wise. We are looking at how to be a healthy community. We look at our mission to enhance the health of our community through excellence and compassion in all we do. We have a community health department. There is a community health assessment survey that is sent out randomly to people within our community. From that, we identify what are the concerns here, and we build a program to help those individuals. Also, we have programs that help navigate patients through the system. If they have a chronic illness, who can they see? How do I get an appointment? Who's going to follow up with me? Where do I go to get this? There's a navigator, a care coordinator.
Thank you, Alice. For the next question, we will start with Bob.
The board of directors is tasked with overseeing the CEO as its sole employee. However, sometimes non-executive staff might seek out assistance from a board member if they feel they're not being heard by the CEO. What is your approach in balancing the insight of the employees outside of your charge?
Well, I think listening is an important part of that. You know, as a board member, we're responsible to the community, and certainly community members can reach out to board members to talk about concerns that they have. We have the Brown Act, which restricts us in certain ways. Anything that's going to be agendized, we basically can't talk or get involved with people who have a cause, so we end up with serial meetings. So we are restricted in those ways. You know, what I've found, though, is that there's a lot of ways to have one-on-one conversations with people both throughout the organization and members of the public and community. And those serve as really nice ways of having an interchange of ideas about what can be done. And I'm hoping in the future that this community component can be expanded so that we have a more transparent board relationship with not only people in our organization, but also people in the community. And I think one of the ways to do that would be to have open forums, which I would encourage moving forward. And I think that the collaboration with our other partners, Town of Truckee and the other districts, I think we need to expand on that, because I think that's another way to continue the dialogue of what's best for our community.
Thank you, Bob. We'll go to Alice next.
Depending on what the conversation is that I have with that individual, it really will depend on what I'm going to do with that information. I certainly want to let them know that as an elected official, that I am here to hear what their concerns are, and also who is best to be able to remedy some of those concerns. I would immediately tell them that I'd like to share this with our CEO, who is able to do that. He is able to make those changes, or she in the future can help us with that. But as far as can I do anything about it, I can listen to you. I can help you go up the chain of command. I can also keep it private between us if you do not wish to have your name known. I think there are other ways that we can help individuals with concerns, giving them the tools to write out an email or send something to the directors or to the CEO, giving their concerns. We also have audience input at all of our meetings where the public can come and bring issues that they might have to the board. Because of the Brown Act, we can't discuss them right then and there, but we certainly can pass them on to staff who can address them and contact the individual. Oftentimes, it might be a single individual with a concern that we can help them try to resolve it within the organization. When it's groups of people, that's when
Thank you, Alice.
we need help.
Go ahead, Rob.
Thank you. I like that. That's sole employee of the board. That was a nice, I like that. And so that's the job. That's the job of the board. Hold the CEO accountable. That we are elected, if elected, board members are elected by the public. That's who the board members represent. So I loved it. In the startup that we had, you need to hear what people are doing in the front line, one generation away. Of course, the CEO is going to want to tell you all the great news. That's their job. They want to tell you how good things are going. That's the job of the board, though. You really need to hold them accountable and get information where you can, how you can. Of course, following all the appropriate rules of the Brown Act, but we want to make that, and that's a job. Because if you do that, you get that information, you are able to process information, obviously through the right channels, but the goal is to make sure that when you have that information, it is the right information, it's the proper information, and it's accountable, that you can make sure that, again, make this system better.
Thank you. For the next question, we'll start with Alice.
The silver tsunami threatens to strain healthcare systems across the country. What efforts does Tahoe Forest need to get behind to be a lifeboat for those in this rising tide?
We need a paddleboard. No, but seriously, our senior population is growing, and we do need to look at what are the needs of them. I have been involved in some of the discussions that have been going on, not only with accessing health care, but housing, food insecurity, having people around them that might need some counseling to be done, or assessment in terms of, are they a danger to themselves or others, as a senior might have the beginning of Alzheimer's or the beginning of senility. What I think can happen, and what we've had in the past, is there has been a nurse in the senior center, where she has seen the variety of seniors that live there and has an idea over time what's happening, and can make suggestions to them or suggestions to the family of what further needs to be followed up on with those individuals. There is really a support group for the seniors. I know the Parks and Recs provides regular meetings for the socialization. And really, if you have socializations for the seniors, they can be discussing all the issues they have. I know one of them is looking for housing. She has now like 20 people looking for availability for her. Again, having someone to help them, transverse the system is really helpful.
Thank you, Alice. Next, we'll go to Rob.
Change, right? It's the only constant, right? And this is one of them. If elected, what I would want to do is look to the 1,400 or so people who run the Tahoe Forest system. Everyone has a chance to play this, have great ideas for everything from how you build things, how you structure, to the care, to the nursing. Everyone has a role. Finding those people who are leaders, finding those ideas that work from there. And make sure to support the CEO who's leading this healthcare system. Make sure they can plan ahead of what's coming down the road. So this is not reactionary 1 or 2 years, but what is the plan for the healthcare system? Giving that CEO all the support he or she needs to make sure that they're doing that. And more importantly, let's tap into the community. I mean, everyone, my hair is not getting any lighter, any darker. And so I want to live the healthiest life here, and so does everyone else here. And there are many people that I've met on this journey in this campaign who want to live healthy lives here. Let's work together. Let's find those ideas. Let's plan them out, and let's execute them.
Thank you. Bob.
Well, thank you. And I want you to know that I love seniors, and as has been pointed out to me, I am one. So I think it's a journey as a senior to age in this mountain community. One of the things that we have seen is one of the reasons for access issues is that we have an aging population here, and the issue is, how do you age in place? I can tell you one thing, you cannot live in a community without a good healthcare system. Transportation becomes a bigger problem as you get older. It's harder to live in this community if you had to go down to Reno or over to Sacramento. So our increasing of services here, for example, in our multi-specialty groups, is really helpful to seniors because they don't have to travel as far as much. I think the other thing with seniors is that they want to age in place here. I know I do. I want to live here as long as I possibly can. And I don't know that it's a special problem different from all the other care, well-being, and other issues that we deal with. But I think the special problems of seniors has to do with their ability to have housing, their ability to have transportation, so they're collateral issues. And we are working with our partners on those kinds of issues. I remember...
Thank you. Last question. We'll start with Rob.
Amid recent turnover, there were people claiming a lack of transparency in the health system. What are your thoughts on how transparent the hospital district can and should be?
Obviously, clear communication. You've got to be clear, you've got to listen, and you have to obviously follow the protocols and rules that are required. But that's it. And when there's a lack of transparency, it means that people aren't being heard. People are, again, successful companies, systems are when communication flows freely up and freely down. And if you don't have that, it's filled in with a lot of misconceptions and ideas. You want to make sure that you can listen to the people who are taking care of our patients, making sure that aligns with with what Tahoe Forest, the healthcare system, really needs to accomplish, and communicating that we're going to try this together. There's going to be failures. No one's 100% successful. But to keep that transparency of honesty, we heard you, we're going to make these goals happen, and we're going to hold ourselves accountable, that is where you build transparency.
Thank you. We'll go to Alice next.
Yeah, transparency really is a reflection of communication. When you fail to communicate why things are being done, then the other person on the other side, well, nobody told me. Nobody said that. We didn't know. When the organization comes and says we have to cut 25%. What do you mean cut 25%? Why do we have to cut? We haven't been transparent about it. We haven't said where we are with our budget, where our income is going. And again, the more we're able to communicate, the less likely they're to say there's no transparency here. Now, there are some things that need to be kept away from transparency, things related to individuals' health records. And again, we have rules in place to prevent that. But if I want to know what my expected bill is, there should be transparency in that this is how much this is going to cost, this is how much this is going to cost. And our hospital has put on their website the charge master, so you can go and look and get a general idea of what's going on with your bill. But transparency covers a lot. And I think as we moved into looking for a new CEO, we were very transparent about what we were looking for, and who could help us with that profile. And so again, there are certain things you want to keep transparent and other things that if you communicate, you don't need that transparency.
Thank you. Bob.
Well, I'm looking at transparency from the point of view of systems management. And I think that it's important that everyone in our work groups have the ability to contribute to how those systems are managed. We have brought in a management consultant to develop bottom-up management, and that's giving the people who have the problem the opportunity to be the ones to solve it, because they're the ones closest to the problem. And when you do that, the issue of transparency is there because people know what's going on. And the people who are contributing to the solutions to the problems are the very ones who are seeing the problems. So we have a system, and we're working on that type of bottom-up management. Now, the other thing that we're working on is dyadic relationships at the department level. This pairs a physician and an administrator. So the confusion and the lack of transparency comes if an administrator just comes in and says, here's the way it's going to be. What we're trying to do is put the problem on the other side of the table, and the physician department head and the administrator opposite that problem, so they can work on the problem instead of going against each other and having conflicts. So we're really working hard to find resolutions to potentials for conflict, and the transparency component of that is the collaborative working relationships that allow people to know what's going on.
Thank you. That concludes the question portion for the evening. If anyone would like, you do have a 1-minute rebuttal option. Is anyone interested in taking on the 1-minute rebuttal option?
No.
No? Great.
Yeah.
No? Okay, we'll go ahead and move into closing statements. Remember, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement, and we're going to start with Alice.
Thank you. Tahoe Forest Health System is the cornerstone of healthcare for most of us. Rural health systems like ours face unique challenges, and while many rural hospitals across the country have limited their services or closed their doors completely, Tahoe Forest has risen to the challenge while continuing to provide exceptional care. This success is a testament to the collaborative efforts of the board of directors that understand the critical role of governance. We work closely with administration, and together with our dedicated staff, have made advances in our care we provide. Through these efforts, we've earned the designation as a Level 3 trauma center and a stroke receiving center, ultimately improving the outcomes and the quality of care for our patients. Access to care is a concern for us all. It is a multiple facet issue that is being addressed and coordinated by a process improvement team composed of frontline staff and leadership. In addition, we're embracing opportunities to innovate and partner strategically to further enhance our services. This progress is making a tangible difference in the lives of the people we serve. Currently, the board is focused on one of the most important responsibilities, the search and selection of our next chief executive officer of our health district. We are committed to find a leader who will guide us through the challenges and opportunities ahead. I am seeking re-election to continue this work. I will work to ensure that our health system remains robust, agile, and prepared to meet the future needs. I respectfully request your vote to elect
Thank you,
me.
Alice.
Alice.
So close. Next, we'll go to Rob.
Thank you again to the hosts, everyone here in person and virtually for attending. I've really enjoyed this forum. I want to thank everyone who on this campaign who have endorsed me, have supported me. I want to really thank, there's dozens of so people that I've sat down with during this who spoke to me and gave me their frank discussions about this healthcare system. Trust is important to me. As a physician, when you enter a room and the patient is there, they don't know you. There's no trust. You have to listen. You have to communicate back, use your medical expertise, and help them on that journey. Healthcare systems are the same way. And so I believe that access is important. We really need to make sure that we're getting the care that we need and the right care. Well-being of the community, making sure that the care that's delivered to the community make the biggest impact so we can all live healthy lives. Take care of the people who are taking care of us. They need the support. The staff needs the support to make sure that they're doing the best job they can. And we should all do this together. You know, the community needs to do this together. We all want to live healthiest lives. Love the fact that we all have the great passion for being here. That being said, I hope you got to know a little bit about me. I hope I've gotten your trust. Please, during this campaign, reach out to me. I hope we can continue this conversation. My name is Rob Darjankevich. I'm running for Tahoe Forest Hospital District Board of Directors. I need your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. And Bob.
What I'd like to take this time to talk about is our health system strengths. I don't think people really understand what a district hospital is. We are a nonprofit district hospital, and that gives us tremendous opportunities because none of the money that comes into our hospital has to go to shareholders, and no equity company can buy us and turn our doctors into a commodity to be bought and sold in the marketplace. And that's happening across America. But it can't happen here because we're a district hospital. That gives us tremendous opportunities to focus on sustainability and not profit. And I think going forward, the lesson that I've learned in my years on the board is that this allows us to be more involved with community engagement. And I think it allows us to be to have a form of governance that's far more collaborative. In a profit-based healthcare facility, the people on the board of directors are there because they're the major shareholders and they're trying to safeguard their interests in their money. And I think some of our previous leadership was more focused on that type of model. And we're trying to go away from that and to take advantage of what we are as a healthcare district in order to do the kind of programming that benefits the community, that provides health care to everyone, that allows us to reach out beyond those who are insured, that allows us to take programs, for example, with mammograms, to go out in the community and make sure everybody has one, because if we catch cancer early, we can prevent it. So I want to emphasize that we have tremendous benefits with the kind of legal structure that we have.
Thank you, Bob. And I gave you 3 extra seconds.
I got it back. Thank you.
You got it back.
We're even.
Thank you, candidates, so much. Let's go ahead and give them a round of applause. This is not easy. And again, the Tahoe Forest Hospital District has 2 open seats, so you'll see 3 names on your ballot, but are able to vote for 2. We'll go ahead and take a 10-minute break. Be back here. We'll give you a 13-minute break. We'll be back at 6:30. Thank you so much.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Hey, Steve, how you doing?
2 minutes. 2 minutes away. Candidates, please take your seats at the dais.
I think we have 27 for you guys. We're going till midnight. Yeah, I don't know. It's better that I don't know. I was kidding. Did you say 27? Oh, okay. Do we have to redo? Should we redo telling them how many minutes they have for everything? Because, or do we just assume they know because some of them were here last night? In other words, well, now we turn to candidates for Truckee Airport District Board, but we don't give them any instructions. Okay. I'll redo that part.
1 minute. 1 minute. Candidates, please take your seats. Everybody else, please take your seats. Please silence your phones. Silence your phones. Stand by, Ted. Okay, thank you, everybody. Stand by for part 2. Ted, coming out to you in 10 seconds on camera 1. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and go.
And welcome back. And we turn now to candidates for the Truckee Tahoe Airport District Board of Directors. Before we do, I will review what you all will be going through. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make an opening statement. Next, the candidates will be asked questions by Miami Peacock of Moonshine Inc., and all candidates will have the opportunity to answer each question. Answers should be no more than 1 minute and 30 seconds. The order of answering will rotate with each question. After the question and answer period, we are offering an opportunity for candidates during a rebuttal period. This will be a 1 minute period. You're not obligated to take advantage of it, but if you heard something that you would like to address during the Q&A, you'll have that opportunity. To the audience, little housekeeping, please put your phones on quiet, and let's hold any applause until the end of the Q&A period. To the candidates, I'm going to apologize in advance. My mother taught me never to interrupt. But if you exceed your time, I am forced to do so. So I will beg your forgiveness in that in advance. We will be moving immediately to the Q&A period, and Bob Entrican, you will be starting. You'll have 1 minute to make your introductory statement. Please proceed.
Well, that was my dad's name, Bob. My name is Birch Entrican, and that's true. It was my dad's. Anyway, I've been in the community for almost 49 years. It's time to give back. As a young man, I wandered into the 1977 Truckee Air Show. And a long story short, that led to an aviation career. I'm now a retired airline pilot, and no, I do not want to bring airline service to Truckee. There's no place for that. What I do want to bring to the board is 47 years of professional aviation experience, which the board lacks. I'm interested in a safe, efficient airport run as quietly as possible, STEM education for young people, and community partnerships as appropriate.
Birch, my apologies. Our staff, writing staff, made a mistake here in the script, so my apologies.
It's just poor handwriting, I think.
Okay, thank you. Bill Greeno, you are next.
Hi, I'm Bill Greeno. I believe that this community deserves to be represented to this board by someone who's here to serve this community, and I'm that person. I am just completing my 6th year, endeavoring on my 7th year with the Chamber of Commerce here in town. I'm also the past president of the Planning Commission for Nevada County, District 5. There are people who ask me if I'm pro-pilot or not, pro-community or not. And the truth is, I'm pro-people, and we are all part of this community. I believe that there are aviation users of the airport and non-aviation users of the airport. Elected, I'll do everything in my power to see to it that we all benefit from the airport. Thank you.
Teresa.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I am, let's see, this is the last year of my 2nd term on the airport board. So I've done 8 years. I am running for re-election. I am a local, graduated North Tahoe in 1986. My partner and I have 6 kids, all born and raised here, all graduated North Tahoe. In addition to my 2 terms on the airport, I did 2 terms elected at North Tahoe Fire Protection District. And what else can I tell you? What else do you guys want to know? I have a mortgage company in Tahoe City, so most of you, I know you one way or another. My interest in this is purely community. I hate to fly, never been in a private plane, not a pilot. I don't know anyone who has a private plane, but I'm interested in, that's my 15 seconds, in giving back to the community in any way that I can. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Devine, do you prefer Tim or Timothy?
Tim, please.
Tim?
Tim, please. Thank you.
Tim, you are next.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim Devine, and I've been a 12-year homeowner here in the Truckee area. I'm a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. I'm a bioenvironmental engineer, and I'm a pilot. and safety is my focus for this airport. Number one is safety. Number two is fire protection. We need fire protection to protect our homes and our community. Minutes matter when firefighting. We've not had the leadership on the airport board to bring the resources to this airport. We talk about safety. We do not have the infrastructure and have not had the infrastructure in place to properly protect our community. And unfortunately, members of the board have not known how to do that. Noise attenuation, it can be done properly. We don't have the proper measuring equipment. I am looking to bring the leadership as a pilot and a business owner to the airport board, understanding safety, implementing safety, and protecting our community. It's a community airport that serves all, and that's the purpose of the airport.
Mr. David Diamond.
Hi. Our airport will collect $9 million in property tax this year. The money we don't need for safety and operations can be used to expand the airport, or it can be used to invest in the community. I say we invest it back into the community. Last year, I asked for $2 million to form a wildfire mitigation partnership with the fire agencies at North Tahoe, North Star, Olympic Valley, and Truckee. Thanks to unanimous board support, fire mitigation projects are underway now that are making our communities safer. This is the power of the airport district when its board is thinking about the region and not about airport expansion. I'm running for re-election to make sure we continue these smart investments. Please visit diamond2024.com to see what I've been up to. And if you think I've been doing a good job, I would appreciate your vote for my re-election. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Greg Horvath.
Hi, my name is Greg Horvath. I believe in a small Truckee Tahoe airport, one that supports local pilots, charges private jets their fair share, and maximizes making our property tax dollars work for the entire North Tahoe Truckee community. I'm concerned that the $9 million in local property taxes that the district receives will be used to expand airport infrastructure, potentially increasing jet traffic and reducing neighborhood safety. Living in Sierra Meadows, I'm reminded daily of longstanding community concerns around safety, environmental impact, and noise from low-flying planes. We see one local plane crash a year. Safety must drive all airport decisions and is a priority for everyone standing up here. If elected, I plan to continue the good work that the board has done, focusing on safety programs, maintaining airport assets, managing growth, and maximizing funding for initiatives that benefit the entire community, like wildfire mitigation.
My apologies, your time's expired.
And
Mr.
STEM
Horvath.
education.
Thank you. That brings us to our question and answer portion of the forum. And remember to please keep your answers to 1 minute or less. Oh, excuse me, 1.5 minutes. Another little issue. 1.5 minutes. And Mr. Greeno will answer the first question. Mayumi.
Thank you, Ted. This past March, I was walking along the Truckee River with my family when we heard the soul-chilling sound of a plane crashing into the ground near the railroad tracks. We were not more than 200 yards away from the crash site. And sadly, this was one of 3 crashes near the Truckee Airport in the last 3 years. So what do you believe was the #1 cause of these crashes? And what can the district do to mitigate that cause?
Thanks, Mayumi. I am not an expert in aviation. I know for a fact, though, that this community is terrified of that happening again. Safety must be the #1 issue addressed by the board, by staff every day. I think it's important that we work together with the community to help the community at large appreciate what the airport does do for safety, not just for the safety of the pilots and the airport, but for the safety of this community. And whether it's the $2 million that the sitting board has done a great job, I believe, in supporting this community with that $2 million, I've talked to the local firefighters, addressed the board, and they are very appreciative of what they've been able to do with that money. Furthermore, if your family lives in a community, in a neighborhood that's been threatened by wildfire, and that wildfire was extinguished by a helicopter or a plane, That's part of the airport. Flown for care flight from a ski area because you messed up skiing down a hill, airport. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Horvath.
We have an airport. That means there are going to be... Thank you. We have an airport. That means there are going to be safety implications for our town. As far as I understand, despite many different views on this, the airport is not going anywhere. There are always going to be safety concerns. The challenge for the board is how to navigate that in a way that balances the interests of the community and balances all the other benefits that the airport provides. I think one of the biggest challenges that I've noticed in the last several months is how contentious the airport board is. And the ability for people to speak together and actually collaborate and work together on creative solutions is incredibly important. I think the reality is that as long as we have an airport, there will continue to be a certain number of crashes. The opportunity is how best can we manage that and make as big of an impact as we can.
Thank you. Ms. Odette.
Couple things, and I have the benefit of being on the board, and I'm sure David will echo this. But the first thing is, it was bad weather when that plane went down. They should really think about Reno in that circumstance. We can't control that as a board. The tower cannot control that, but that would be the first thing. Second thing I've heard, and I'm not an aviator, but I know a lot of pilots, is that if 220, one of our runways, was longer, not longer than the existing other runway, but longer than it is now, then a pilot could choose to land there and not have to do the fly around and crash. And I've heard that that's true of the crashes in the last 10 years. So lengthening and widening the other runway would have allowed that pilot to come in. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Devine.
Here at the Truckee Airport, we have a microclimate for pilots. I am a pilot and I understand aircraft accident investigations and I've done them. We've had 18 people perish in the past 20 years here because we haven't had the proper infrastructure for the runway. As alluded to by Teresa, we need to invest the dollars in the airport. The NTSB data reports speak clearly for itself. We also need to shut this airport down at times during inclement weather, and we can do that. As a pilot, if the weather was bad and I had an aircraft crash, I could shut this airport down, and so could any other pilot. People on the board need to understand the Tampa Bay Airport just closed down for bad weather. When we have bad weather, the decision needs to be made to close this airport for safety of the community, and it's not been done in the past. We need to make good decisions. We need to use the communication tools that all pilots have before they arrive, and we are not doing that with the board. When I'm on the board, hopefully when elected, I'll be able to implement programs and educate pilots before they even get there. There's things that we can do now to protect our pilots and to protect our community. Safety begins when the pilot gets in the cockpit. Weather avoidance, understanding what the tower can and can't do, keeping the tower open for extended periods of time during certain periods of time will ensure safety for our community. It's education before the pilots get here, and at times closing the airport.
Thank you. Mr. Diamond.
It's tough to second guess the decisions that are made by a pilot, but in this case, it was a bad decision to land in Truckee. Reno was an option. It wasn't that far. It would have been a completely different outcome. With regard to closure of the airport, there are 3 situations in which we can legally close the airport. One for runway contamination, but the runway was not contaminated at that point in time, so we didn't have that option. We have 2 pilot pools that we need to speak to and educate. One is local and one is transient. Our local pilots, we encourage to join our Fly Safe program, which is where we provide safety seminars on pretty much a monthly basis. That was the evolution of a program my fellow board director, Kat Rolfe and I
developed that is the first of its kind now with the FAA. And for the transient population, we've asked staff to include comments in all of our flight planning materials to remind transient pilots that when the weather is not good in Truckee, Reno is the better option. We have a safe airport. No airport in the world is safe if the pilot is unprepared. So it's important that we let pilots know when they're coming here. If it's not good weather, don't come here.
Thank you. Mr. Entricken.
So when people meet me and they hear that I'm a pilot, and they'll say, "Oh, isn't the Truckee airport really dangerous?" They've heard this over and over again, that it's a dangerous airport. Now, being in the mountains, it does present extra sets of challenges that maybe an airport in the valley doesn't. But I tell them that it's not the airport, it's not the airplane, it's the operator of the airplane that's responsible for the outcome. So as other candidates have said, it is about reaching out to pilots, especially the non-local pilots who are not as familiar with the airport and the approaches that we fly in here, who are maybe not as keen on the risks that they are taking. Both of the crashes that I'm thinking of, the one with the TBM on the tracks, going back to the Challenger landing on 1-1. The TBM was snow, the Challenger was smoke. And in both cases, a bad decision was made. They should have gone to Reno. We need to advertise that.
Thank you. And now we will go to question number 2, and Mr. Horvath, you will go first.
All right, in contrast to that previous question, in emergencies, an airport is a key resource for a community. So how can the Truckee Airport better set itself up to be a resource for medical, wildfire, and other emergencies?
There's a lot of space dedicated for the airport, and having intentional programs on how to use that space for those, as far as I'm aware, are not fully set up. I think there's a lot of opportunity to look at that critically and actually make a structured plan of what would it look like to use the airport as an evacuation space? What would it look like to actually map that out and have a plan that the community is aware of and know is available as a resource? As far as I've seen so far, that those have been fantastic ideas that have not actually been put into a plan yet. But I think there's a huge opportunity there.
Thank you. Ms. Odette.
I think that the airport is an emergency evacuation center, if I'm not mistaken. In certain circumstances, we haven't had a wildfire during my tenure that would require people to evacuate, as far as I know. I think we have lots of CAL FIRE, we have lots of everything, and everybody comes and uses the airport to land, refuel, pick up water in a fire. As far as, maybe an avalanche or something, I think the same thing could be true. Air ambulances, we have CalStar, we have that on the field. So if we got rid of the airport, we would not have that. We wouldn't have the helicopter that would come save you if you broke your leg or were dying from a ski accident, that type of thing. As far as doing more of that, yes, we could have. We would have to incent those people to come rent space at the airport and have an operation there, have a base there. But we could do that.
Thank you. Mr. Devine.
Number one, for the airport, for our safety, we need to have permanently based aircraft here to be able to fight fires, and we can. 20 years ago, the airport board turned it down by bringing permanent fixed wing and rotary wing aircraft with a fire base here with fire retardant. Some people don't want fire retardant. We need to protect our community, and that can be done. We need a dual-use community center that can also be used as an emergency center for the airport. We have the facilities and we've had the funding. We need to expand the airport runway 20 so heavy aircraft can land. The emergency services available will save lives. Medical air evacuation aircraft that can come in and support our community. We need to expand and invest in infrastructure. The tax dollars of the $9 million do not need to be given away. They need to be invested back in our community to protect our community through emergency support. We can't have fixed-based aircraft here. The board needs to take corrective actions to bring them here, to work with Placer County, Nevada County, CAL FIRE, and the U.S. Forest Service. It's not been implemented. We also need to have additional fuel services here. The board has the decision now to vote for that. That infrastructure is needed. When those items are in place, we will protect our homes and our community. And that's what we need to focus on from emergency services and protect.
My
our
apologies,
community.
your time's expired. Thank you. Mr. Diamond.
Our current board does not always agree on everything, but I think that it is safe to say that we do agree on how seriously we take safety. We have never been asked as this board for any resource or any opportunity to host or provide emergency services that we have turned down. Now, what's important to note here is that we are not emergency services providers. We are an airport. In setting up the wildfire mitigation partnership, I had an opportunity to speak with the folks who are professionals in this realm. We did talk about using the airport for various services, and they have told me, and I believe it, they would speak of this publicly, that we have done everything they have asked for. They have explained to me that there is no delay in responses because we don't have special aircraft based at our airport, that because of the way that they do a unified command, it takes them a certain amount of time to organize that anyway. And if we were to interfere with that with our own resources, that it could, in fact, delay their operation. So we are doing everything we can, everything they have asked for, and I'm proud of this board and our staff for that support.
Thank you. Mr. Entrikin.
So yeah, this airport is a great resource in times of emergency, just because of its amount of space that's available. I can remember a fire back in '99 when the entire runway 220 was closed down and it was covered with helicopters fighting the canyon fire that happened that year. It's a platform for care flight as well. Absolutely building a community hangar, which could be a STEM hub, a community events center, as well as an emergency facility, emergency evacuation. I think the airport has an amazing amount of potential for emergency services.
Thank you. And Mr. Greeno.
Thanks, Ted. I've had the opportunity as a wildland firefighter with Plumas Hot Shots Interagency Fire Crew to evacuate people from San Bernardino County in the face of wildfire. And I can tell you that it's a humbling experience. And when you see somebody show up that is there to rescue you, it's a great feeling. I think that that is something that our airport does do and can continue to do through collaboration and cooperation with our local districts and agencies. What could we do with the hospital district for medical emergencies? I would put it upon the hospital and the cooperation between the boards to find the best ways to do that. What can we do with CAL FIRE? That's where the wildland urban interface firefighting is handled. Local fire, who are responsible primarily for residential and commercial fire. The U.S. Forest Service, who's responsible for our national forests. No one is as smart as everyone. We get everybody on board and we work together, and that's how we better provide service for medical and other emergencies.
Thank you. And for the next question, Teresa Odette will go first. Mayumi.
So when this district was formed, it probably never occurred to people that one day it would receive nearly $9 million in property taxes. And as was mentioned, the airport district recently spent $2 million from this bucket to fund local wildfire mitigation projects. This move has been lauded by some and criticized by others. What's your opinion?
Loaded question. I think that in 1958, when the airport was formed, the tax dollars were allocated then by the then Board of Supervisors of both counties. I think that we have, I would bet it's closer to 10 million in this upcoming year that we'll have to allocate tax dollars. The tax dollars were originally approved to run the airport, but we have cash that we earn from operations. If the operational cash doesn't meet the needs of the budget, then we have to give tax dollars to do that. This board, the current 5 of us, all agree that we want to give back to the community whatever we can. This upcoming budget proposes less than 2 million because we need more to support operations. So my position on that is let's reduce the airport expenses, have more tax dollars left over, and reinvest in the community. I think fire prevention was a great thing. It was unanimously approved by our current board. It was our idea. We didn't need to be lobbied to approve it. And we'd love to do more of it in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Devine.
We want to be able to give, I want to be able to give back to the community. Giving back to the community is not just willy-nilly giving away funds. The $2 million which has been allocated will not be able to be executed for fire mitigation for an extended period of time because there are no contractors available to perform those tasks. There are other federal grant dollars that are currently afoot to be able to perform wildlife mitigation and reduce the fuels in our forest. We need to carefully select in putting out buzz statements. Let's give away money to look good and collect votes is not in the best interest of the airport board of directors that advise and protect our community and service the people of Truckee. When we're giving away the dollars, we need to make sure they can be expended properly to be used timely to protect our community. So I advocate giving away the funds. However, it needs to be balanced against when can the work be done and what are other future referendums that are out there that are going to fund on a much larger scale the mitigation of our forests and the cleanup. We need to focus on taking care of the airport to build the infrastructure to protect our community, to widen the runway, to make it safer. The board members talk about safety, but we need to implement safety and balance supporting the community.
Thank you. Mr. Diamond.
I co-chaired the campaign to pass Truckee Fire's Measure T program. And that was my first exposure to how fire was being handled here and how the districts dealt with that. One of the things that impressed upon me is that they do, through their community wildfire protection plans, do have areas that are identified for treatment where there are no funding sources. From that was where I got the idea that if we could provide the $2 million, that we might actually be able to get some of those projects going. And they are going. I hear from people in the community, areas that needed treatment are getting treatment. This is important to me. And with regard to whether or not we should continue on this, I can't imagine a better use of that money right now. We are allocating money to the firefighting professionals, and we are trusting that they know how to do their jobs. And I would say, based on the fire season we've had so far, they've done a fantastic job at dealing with the fires that we've seen in this region. So I wholeheartedly support doing this, and I can't think of a better use for the public money that the airport has received.
Thank you. Mr. Greeno.
Thanks, Ted. I had the distinct pleasure last night of being with registered professional forester Dylan Sheedy of the Truckee Fire Protection District and Darren Bew of the Eastern Regional Fire Safe Council at the Eastern Regional Fire Safe Council meeting. And at that meeting, Dylan specifically listed a group of projects that are underway currently and listed another group that were pretty exciting to hear about for next summer. There is money available. I was also happy to be at the meeting, the budget meeting for the airport last week, and it looks like there's going to continue to be money available. Being on the board of directors, I would like to make that something that was available in perpetuity. I think that it's important that the firefighters, the groups involved with our forests can rely on that money year in and year out and know where they can use it, know better how much they have to spend. I think it's a great thing that that money was allocated. And going forward, I would like to continue seeing it happen.
Thank you. Mr. Entrican.
So as far as spending property tax revenue, I think the first thing you have to think about is airport infrastructure and safety, safe operations. I noted in the 2024 budget that airport expenses exceeded airport revenue by about 1.7 million. So I think that's an excellent place to spend property tax revenue to cover that gap, as well as provide for a reserve for the airport operations. We have to recognize also that giving away property tax money is governed by state and federal rules and laws. And as long as we're in compliance with that, then I'm happy to support giving money back to the community. I think fire mitigation is a wonderful idea. Getting back to the idea of a community hangar, promoting STEM programs for young people, aviation scholarships, local nonprofits who are in line with the airport's mission.
Thank you. Mr. Horvath.
I think the board has done an amazing job of navigating a complex regulatory environment, a diverse group of stakeholders that have many interests in where money should go that comes to the airport. And they've done a really fantastic job of balancing maintaining safety, maintaining noise concerns, and still putting money into the community. I think there's a lot to learn from what the board has already done. I think the notion and the narrative that taking money and putting it into things like fire or redirecting it to non-aeronautical uses, that is somehow contradictory to running a safe and efficient airport. I disagree with that narrative. I think we absolutely can, and I think the existing board has done a great job of showing us that that is possible. On fire specifically, I think the $2 million that went to fire this year was absolutely fantastic. I would love to see that be consistent year over year. And I think you want to talk about economic impact of the airport. The best economic impact the airport could have is making sure town is still here and that it doesn't burn down. So I would love to continue the work that the board is doing. I think they've set up a great example of how to navigate a difficult framework, and I'd like to continue that. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the next question, Mr. Devine will go first. Mayumi.
Thank you. This question is going to kind of follow along the same topic, but this was a topic that was brought to the panel in numerous ways and facets. So it's going to be a little more nuanced, but continuing along the same path. In January of this year, the FAA called into question the district's intermixing of operational, federal funding, and public taxes in a single general fund. Also, the 2024 airport district budget shows, as was mentioned, a significant amount of property tax revenue paying for airport operations. Is the airport doing enough to keep aviation dollars on one side and public monies on another?
The airport needs to keep the airport dollars with the airport. The funding that we have for this airport is from the tax revenue that this airport has helped to generate. We would not have Martis Camp, Lahontan, and many other communities if it wasn't for this airport. Those airport tax dollars go back to schools, community centers, and many other things. The dollars that come to this airport in taxes need to stay at the airport and be used at the airport. And where appropriate, funds need to be given to the community to support the community. The FAA recognizes that they're getting grant dollars. The airport's saying, hey, we need money to improve the airport. The FAA is giving them grant dollars. But at the same time, the airport's giving away money. There are many people believe that that is inappropriate. And those are outside of this airport and how those dollars are being spent. And the FAA is questioning it. So we today, to protect our airport, should keep the money at the airport and where appropriate, support the STEM program, the outreach programs for our community, because we will be questioned, and it does have the appearance of inappropriate activities. So I concur that the dollars stay at the airport, support the community as appropriate, because right now they're not potentially in compliance with all of the airport FAA guideline rules.
Thank you. Mr. Greeno.
Thanks, Ted. My understanding is that there was a investigation into the use of the money, and that that use has narrowed, and it's being used now in appropriate ways. The use of that money for the airport and its safety is first and foremost. If the airport isn't safe, it doesn't benefit anyone. It doesn't benefit the pilots, it doesn't benefit the aviation community or the non-aviation community. So that's first and foremost. Outside of a responsibly run airport, there is room for money to be used elsewhere. If the airport runs within its enterprise, within its dollars earned, and whatever dollars are needed from the tax revenue to have a great airport, then that money has to go somewhere. Why shouldn't it go into wildland fire mitigation in the form of healthy forests? Why shouldn't it go into continuing technical education, educating people in the trades locally? Every job at the airport's a trade. Let's educate our local kids who already have homes here, places to live, to work there. The airport was originally founded by the Chamber of Commerce here in Truckee for the purpose of a healthy business habitat. Let's keep that going.
Thank you. Ms. Odette.
Love this question. So it was not an investigation. It was simply an audit. And the FAA said that we needed to separate our bookkeeping between dollars generated on the airfield and tax dollars, because this is unusual in a general aviation airport. So any dollar that we receive from selling a gallon of gas or renting a hangar has to stay on the airport, period, end of story. If we had 3 times the revenue on that side, we could not give a dime of it away. What we do with the tax dollars, there are state and federal regulations about that. We can't just give it away to anyone sitting here. It has to be specific and related to the airport and public. But it wasn't an investigation. We have already done the accounting to separate those two things. And once a dollar goes into the air side, it can never come back. So if we use tax dollars to build a fuel farm, we can't bring it back next year. It always stays there. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but the tax dollars are the only place we have any ability to reinvest.
Thank you. Mr. Horvath.
Historically, property tax dollars were for the use of the airport. That is, I think, legally what the original intention was. What we're seeing is an evolution of, I think, how people in this town in North Lake Tahoe feel about the airport and what role it plays in our community. The FAA was concerned about intermixing of funds because they didn't want to see airport operational income going into, miscellaneous other community giving. There were certain board members who advocated for splitting the books so that we could get that financial optics before that was required by the FAA. But I think the important story here is just that how this region, how Truckee, how North Tahoe feels about the airport and the role it should play is evolving. And that's why we're sort of sitting in this complicated discussion of how does this funding get allocated and what is the appropriate way to do so. And again, I think the existing board has done a fantastic job of navigating that challenging conversation.
Thank you. Mr. Diamond.
A few years ago, a complaint was filed with Placer County about the way we were using money. There was, at that point in time, there was an investigation from Placer County grand jury about how the airport board was spending money. To summarize their response, it was a pat on the back and said, "We think you're doing a great job." That was a fantastic vote of confidence for us. You fast forward to what you're talking about, Mayumi, about the FAA. This was also the result of another complaint that was made from others who did not want this money going into the community. As Teresa suggested, the FAA's finding was simply an accounting preference. They would like to have the money coming from the community in one account and the money coming from airside in another. What Teresa also mentioned, which is a super important thing to understand, is not only once community money goes on the airside can it never come back, any investments on the airside from community money, no matter how profitable they ever become in the future, cannot come back. If we were to take money, put it on the airside, generate a business, build hangars, any revenue that comes from that in perpetuity will never come back into the community. This is why it's so important for us to be careful with that money before it goes onto the airside and to do what we can to reduce the operating expense so we can reduce that requirement.
Thank you. Mr. Entrican.
So yes, the as has been said before, the any revenue that's generated by operations of the airport has to stay on the airport, and the accounts were separated so that there are two different funds for the airport infrastructure and for property tax use. It's seems to me though that if we are floating in all of this property tax revenue that we are desperately trying to give away, maybe we're just taxing too much. Maybe when the charter for the airport was written back in 1958, they couldn't have foreseen what this place would become or what the tax base would look like. So I think we need to think about whether we're just taxing too much.
Thank you. And for the next question, Mr. Diamond will go first. Mayumi.
Some encourage the airport to expand aviation infrastructure, such as building more hangars or a community hangar facility. In your opinion, what and how much aviation growth is needed?
Zero. I'm not in favor of any expansion of our airport. By FAA's own numbers, we're operating at approximately 25% of the capacity of that airfield right now. I don't know anybody, well, I know a few people who believe that we should build a bigger, busier airport. But the vast majority of the people that I speak to in our communities in Truckee and at the lake do not want a bigger airport. They don't see the purpose of a bigger airport. Things like hangars are extremely expensive investments, millions and millions of dollars. The community hangar that has been mentioned in 2015 was estimated to be $9 million, so let's call that $20 million now. It's from the same pot of money that fire mitigation would come from. That's a lot of fire mitigation to build hangars. Instead of solving some problems for, say, 10 or 20 people, I'd like to solve some problems for 25,000 people in this region by investing that money into what matters most to us, I think, at this point, which is wildfire mitigation.
Thank you. Mr. Devine.
We need to invest in the airport. Having the proper runway structure will allow C-130 aircraft to land, to pick up retardant. Having a retardant base means we protect your homes. We're not making the airport bigger. We're making it able to accommodate, to protect. We have the infrastructure space. Now we need to build it. Having a community center for STEM education has been referenced by other board members will help this community. Having it for emergency preparedness will help this community. The purpose of the tax dollars that come are for the airport. We can use those tax dollars to build the hangars, to build the infrastructure, to build a fire retardant base, to have extended airport tower times, to help, to protect when we have additional lighting, when we have adverse weather. Building the infrastructure will ensure safety. Everyone says safety is number one. And yes, we're not using all of the capacity, but when we build an airport and use the dollars, we're going to make it safer. We can make it quieter. There's things that we can do that we're not doing right now, and the other board members don't know because they're not aviation professionals. So using your tax dollars in your community to protect our community is what we need to do. Safety is number one, and protect our community by investing in the airport for your Tahoe Community Airport.
Thank you. Mr. Entricken.
So on the subject of hangars, I think we would do well to build a moderate number of hangars. We clearly have a supply and demand problem there. About 114 people on a waiting list and 4 to 10 years wait time. The jets are already here. This isn't going to bring in more jets. More hangars might actually decrease your noise problem. If you look at, let's say in the wintertime, an airplane flies in, drops off passengers, but because there's a storm coming in and we have no de-icing capability here, they're going to reposition that aircraft to somewhere else where it doesn't get snowed on. When the passengers are ready to leave, that airplane flies back in, picks up the passengers, and leaves. So instead of 2 operations, you had 4 operations. The return on investment to the airport would be immediate because those hangars would never be empty. So I'm in favor of some moderate expansion of hangar space. I think it would be a wise investment.
Thank you. Mr. Horvath.
From what I've learned, I don't believe that we need more infrastructure at the airport, but that doesn't mean it's not possible that certain infrastructure could have positive impacts on safety and noise. There's many hot button issues when it comes to infrastructure. Hangars are a contentious topic. Community hangar has come up multiple times. There are wait lists for hangars around the country. That is not unique to Truckee Tahoe Airport. The main issue with a community hangar, from what I have learned, is that the challenge with the community hangar is who gets priority to use it. Is it the community? Is it STEM education? Or is it executive jets? And if you have someone coming along offering you a massive amount of money to take that community hangar and turn it into an executive jet, it may be against your fiduciary duty to say no to such a financial offer. So infrastructure is complicated at the airport. Overall, I think we live in a small town and that we should have a small airport. And infrastructure investments can be impactful, and they should be looked at critically to see how they fit our bigger goals and the overall airport's mission.
Thank you. Ms. Odette.
I think infrastructure is a big word. I think our current master plan has, 12 more hangars to build. Not a ton. We have about 3,500 flights on average per month, in and out. And what Birch said is absolutely right. If we had a few more hangars for those 12 people, we might save 25 flights a month, maybe more, because they're repositioning, which is a technical term. But somebody flies in, drops off their passengers and flies out and has to come back. They're doubling the flights, doubling the noise, doubling everything. I don't think anyone on the board, current or any of these candidates, want more flights, want more noise, want bigger planes. I don't think anybody's going for that. But even to Tim's point, it is airport money. And we do have a plan to build those, and I don't see how it could be negative.
Thank you. Mr. Greeno.
Thanks, Ted. Expanding airport infrastructure, building hangars. It's a hot topic. It's been probably the #1 thing I've heard about since I've declared my candidacy. I'm a business person, and when it comes to my businesses, I make my decisions first from a place of service, deciding if it's going to serve my customers or my staff first. If it makes financial sense, second. In this case, if it can make our airport safer to somehow expand infrastructure, then I'm going to look at it next from a place of business. Does it make sense financially? If we can return money to the airport by airport enterprise and thereby free up more tax money to the community, then that's something that I'm going to absolutely consider. Do I want more planes or big jets? No. If you want more planes or big jets, don't vote for me.
Very good. Thank you. And the next question, we'll start with Mr. Entricken.
I'm feeling some rebuttals coming, so be sure to use that time period when it comes up. The airport has a lot of land. Last year, it wrapped up a land swap to encourage the movement of industrial uses off the river. And in the past, it has dedicated parts of Martis Valley as community open space. How do you feel about the airport's past decisions in its land for community uses, and what should the future look like?
Well, I think in the past, the airport has purchased quite a few acres of land in the surrounding area as a buffer against development and therefore a noise problem. And that land was donated to the land trust, and now it's in perpetuity, and it is now public use property. I'm all for that. I think that was a win-win for everybody. I think that was a great expenditure of airport funds in a community friendly way that actually benefited the community and the airport. Because if you imagine what the traffic would be like if this valley was completely developed, it'd be worse than what we have now, and it's pretty bad what we have now. So I think that's a great way to spend airport money. If there's any more land we can buy, I'd like to buy it. So I'm in total agreement with that.
Thank you. Mr. Diamond.
The funny thing about, like, when you think about the airport district or Tahoe City PUD or North Tahoe PUD or the fire districts or the town of Truckee, is that we serve the same human beings. We see them from a different lens. The town of Truckee sees residents, the airport district sees neighbors, the PUDs see ratepayers, but they're the same human beings. So when we think about the airport using funds to buy public land for good use, this is another example where I don't think that there's a real bad downside to that. With regard to the what you referred to, Myomi, there's a whole process in Truckee going on right now to revitalize River Street. One of the things that is holding that up is that there's no place for those businesses to go if they want to go. So to make up for some room there, the airport did have this parcel. We did have a land swap deal with the sanitation agency. They've just gone through a process to assess being able to surplus, I think it's 190 acres of land that they no longer need over there because they were smart and changed their processing. These are agencies working together for the community, and I'm all for it.
Thank you. Mr. Greeno.
Thank you, Ted. Will you repeat the question, please, or Myomi?
The whole thing? I sense some rebuttals coming. No, just kidding. The airport has a lot of land. Last year, it wrapped up a land swap in the effort to encourage the movement of industrial uses off the river. And in the past, it has dedicated parts of Martis Valley as community open space. How do you feel about the airport's past decisions in its land for community uses, and what should the future look like?
Thank you. The river revitalization project is underway. It's a great committee, bunch of local people here heading that up, and they are in need of receiver sites for those businesses. And to bring those businesses into the fold of the airport, I think is really pays homage to the history of the airport as it was brought to this area for the purposes of bolstering the economy. And that's a place where we maintain local businesses, local employees, living locally, working and serving this community locally. I'm perfectly in favor of bringing outside business in, as the airport has already done a great job with the Tahoe Food Hub, the Roundhouse, the Lift. If you want to start a business and you don't have the funds to rent a building, you can go to the Lift and you can have space where you can start that process of entrepreneurship. As far as the open space, I think the area that was purchased around the airport is phenomenal, both for safety and for recreation and open space. I would very much support the use of the airport and its funds that way in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Devine.
We need the airport, if there's excess land that is not being used by the airport, it should be given back to the community if it's not associated with airport activities. Open space around the airport needs to be protected because if there is an aircraft accident, because aircraft accidents frequently occur in close proximity, we need to protect the open space. If we can bring businesses to the airport community and regionalize them, and we have the opportunity, we should. Excess land that's been given away and land swapped that's beneficial to the community, we need to continue to support that where at all possible, and going forward in the future to balance the excess land to help the community at the same time protecting the airport, so if there is an accident, we have the open space with the focus on safety.
Thank you. Mr. Horvath.
I think the past decisions around land use have just been huge, easy wins. And I think you're probably going to see pretty consistent answers from everyone sitting up here. Increases safety, helps Truckee grow intelligently. I think it's a fantastic example of the airport playing into this evolving role of how we imagine this town and this region to look. Moving businesses off of the river district, getting them land elsewhere so that we can have an amazing river park, access to one of the fantastic natural resources in the area. We've also got protections around Wattle Ranch. It's simply an easy win. So I fully support it. I think the opportunity to strategically purchase more land in the future that checks all these boxes will be an easy choice for a future board. I think the only challenge is doing so at a fiscally responsible time relative to the overall budget of the airport.
Thank you. Ms. Odette.
I would love to take credit for Wattle Ranch and Ponderosa Golf Course, but that predated me. I do think both of those were great for to prevent crashes, because just like a car crash usually happens within a mile of home, airplanes crash close to the airport. And I mean, what would have happened 2 years ago with that one that went down, right next to Ponderosa Golf Course? So I think those are good purchases. Back to the prior comment I said, we cannot use FAA land for anything other than FAA purposes, period. We can't give it back. If we used FAA money to buy it, same thing. It's landlocked forever. I don't think we're in the business of, running affordable housing. That being said, we give a lot of money away towards that end, but we don't want to be the primary landlord. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to check in with the candidates right now. Make sure you're doing okay. We have 17 more questions. And if that's okay, actually, I believe that we have 2 questions left.
Yeah.
And so we'll proceed. Just wanted to break the tension a little bit. And this question, we will begin with Mr. Greeno.
What role do you see the airport district playing in encouraging STEM for younger generations?
Thanks, Naomi. So let's be clear first on what STEM is and STEAM education. Science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Specifically, it is education that is done through expeditionary learning, and it teaches kids problem-solving skills and problem-solving and I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, it's utilized later in life, oftentimes for continuing technical education, specifically trades education. It's by these projects that these kids work through that they ultimately work their way into the trades. They can certainly take the college route, but STEM education lends itself. It's the delivery vehicle, or excuse me, continuing technical education is the delivery vehicle of STEM education or STEAM education. And I think that the airport has an investment in it already. I would like to see that investment continued. It will bring jobs to the area. It will continue to provide workers for the airport and our local economy.
Ms. Odette.
I think that us giving money back to the community in the form of STEAM education is a high priority for the current board. I can't speak for who will come next and how they feel about it, but I can definitely say that the current board is in favor of that. And when we get grant requests, that's one of our highest criteria. Other than that, I think it's great.
Thank you. Mr. Entrican.
So I am the poster child for STEM education at the Truckee Airport from before STEM education was even a thing. As a kid, I always hated math and science. It scared me. And I walked into the 77 air show and I thought it was pretty cool. So I walked into the flight school and I asked them 2 questions. How much does it cost and how long does it take? And they answered my questions. And then they said, oh, by the way, we have a special. For $400, you get your first 10 hours of flight instruction and all your ground school materials. So I was 21 years old and I had $500 in my checking account. So what do you think I did? I immediately wrote them a check for $400 or 80% of my net worth and said, I'll be back in a couple days. So I was kind of a local ski bum that didn't really have a lot of direction. And I started taking flying lessons and I discovered this whole new world, which led to an aviation career. And I feel very fortunate for my association with this airport. And I will do everything I can to promote, increase, explore any and all STEM education, linking with our high schools for our young people.
Thank you very much. Mr. Horvath.
I think with the last question, you're going to see that this is a pretty consistent answer across the board here. This is an easy win. The STEAM education is a fantastic use of funds for the airport. They've funded several programs. Let's do more. Let's keep that trend going. And let's think critically about how we can maximize the infrastructure that we already have access to and utilize the facilities that we have to support more programs for more kids, more adults, and just have as big of an impact within STEAM as we can.
Thank you. Mr. Devine.
STEM, we have many opportunities. We have the Young Eagles program out here, and we're bringing students here, letting them learn to fly, to build model aircraft, have a summer program for them, and we can do more. We have the Civil Air Cadet program for STEM education. We can do more. Having the community center will allow them to do more. The airport board can direct the airport to become involved in certain programs. There's national programs that this airport has never reached out and taken advantage of to put science and math in high schools and elementary schools, to bring the children to the airport to show them, hey, why does an airplane fly? How does math, how does science impact it? So we need to do more with STEM. Having a community center will allow for more STEM, and that's a center where the students can come, be educated. They want to have a robotics club here, but there's no space for it. A community center will allow for that. The Young Eagles program, there were 40 students that we took flying last month, and it'll happen again next Saturday the 12th. STEM education involves the programs that are here. We need to expand them. We also need to ask the board, or the board needs to ask the airport, to use the national resources that are available for free, to pick out to the community, and that's not being done. So elected to the board, I will take STEM to the next level to bring it to our community and our youth so they understand the math and the science. They might not become pilots or aviators, but it'll help them learn in the sciences and grow.
Thank you. And Mr. Diamond.
STEM is a fantastic use of public funds. If we can inspire younger people to get into any area of STEM or STEAM, not just aviation, as Greg put it, it's hard to find a downside to that. But the downside that I can find about the way we're doing it right now is that we're trying to do things in isolation. We have a school board here, we have a library here, we have Kid Zone, we have Makerspace, and we try to do everything inside the walls of the airport. Some of the programs we have, Mission to Mars is a personal favorite of mine because I think it's so well done, it's so efficient, and it's so impactful. I think that by connection to actual education professionals, we could not only continue it, but we could do it more efficiently. There's an organization in San Carlos called the Hiller Aviation Museum. They have amazing events for kids that are basically weekly, that are very inexpensive. You can see it on their website and Facebook pages. They're super creative. And I really respect that they are being creative about that. I think we could do more in that regard, be more efficient, and be more effective.
Thank you. And now we will move on to the final question, and Mr. Horvath will go first.
All right, as we come into this landing, get it? That's the last question. Now would be a good time to take a deep breath and think about your vision. Where do you see the airport in 5 years in comparison to where it is today?
This is not closing statements. I see Truckee Tahoe Airport, continuing to evolve and matching the vision that the people who live here have for it. I think that will continue to change. I think there will continue to be innovative ideas on what we can do with STEM, what we can do with our facilities, what we can do for wildfire, what we can do for land in the region. I think there is an incredible amount of opportunity as town grows and changes for the airport and the tax dollars that it receives to be a resource for implementing positive changes that the community is excited about. So exactly what that looks like in 5 years, I think is unclear. But I think the current board has done a fantastic job of building a really strong trajectory. And I would like to continue that collaborative conversation and see what we can build.
Ms. Odette.
I would love to see a balanced budget that is based on operations, paying for operational expenses, and moving in that direction, and then taking the tax dollars that we receive, which will continue to grow because the ad valorem tax continues to grow, finding ways to support the airport infrastructure, retire debt, things like that, as well as give back to the community at whatever level we can. I think that is a continuing conversation that we can have with the other special districts in the area. I don't see any other special districts having the conversation that sound like, what are you doing with our tax dollars? And we receive less than most other special districts, school district, Parks and Rec, you name it. So I think we should collaborate with other districts to say, what can we do on a bigger level?
Mr. Devine.
For the future of this airport in 5 years, the infrastructure for increased safety, for aircraft that can land here and protect our community, a community center for STEM, to bring students here, to give them a place to learn, allow students to build airplanes at the airport. They might not be pilots, but they'll learn to use their hands, have that STEM education outreach, having even possibly a larger restaurant here, additional aircraft resources and businesses here because we have the land and the space. Use the space efficiently to create high-paying technical jobs, educate youth here at the airport, having the community center to service and support everyone in the community, a community center that will be more than just for an airport. And when I say community center, I'm not talking about parking planes in an airplane hangar. A community center that'll have a multi-purpose, multi-function use for our community, that'll help our community be safer and stronger and to be available to educate youth. That is what I foresee for this airport. And people talk about making it much bigger. We don't need jet service in here. Can't emphasize that enough. We don't need airlines in here. We need safety. We need security. We need resources to help our community. That needs to be our focus, and a balanced budget with it all.
Thank you. Mr. Diamond.
I hope in 5 years our airport looks exactly the same as it does now. No bigger, no additional infrastructure, nothing like that. One of the things that is important for us to consider, Teresa alluded to this, our staff estimates that within 8 years we will be receiving $14 million in property tax. This is a lot of money for a board to do a lot of things with, which is why I feel like it's important that we have boards who are thinking about what's important for the community rather than infrastructure expansion. I also hope that through additional partnerships like the wildfire mitigation partnership that we've had, that other special districts actually see that it makes sense when we work together on projects, and that we are not only working together with many more districts, but that the opinion of the airport in the community at Truckee and at North Lake Tahoe, from State Line all the way down to Tahoe, that people have a generally positive attitude about the work we've done because they've seen the benefit and they appreciate the effort. That's what I'm hoping.
Mr. Entrican.
So in 5 years, I see the airport looking much like it does now. A little more infrastructure, maybe a community center, running safely, efficiently, and quietly. It's a platform for emergency services and that's about it.
Thank you. And that brings us now for the opportunity. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. My apologies. Bill Greeno, my apologies. I'm going to hear about this from Mr. Greeno. I can guarantee
you're going to
it.
hear about it.
My apologies, sir.
Thanks, Ted. 5 years, 5-year vision. I see the airport as a place where aviation and non-aviation users both embrace the airport as a community asset, where the airport board works more closely with local districts and agencies to make our community better, with the school district specifically for continuing the continued technical education. I've met recently with the assistant superintendent of schools who focuses on how STEAM lends itself into and grows into CTE, and I'd like to see that grow through our educational institutions that already exist. With the Chamber of Commerce to bolster the economy and to continue to support business. With the fire district can help us to create fire-adapted, safe forests where fires don't need to be fought like they do today. And finally, working with our aviation professionals to make it the safest airport it can be.
Thank you. And now is the opportunity for rebuttal. I know Mayumi's been looking forward to this for quite some time. If you choose to offer a rebuttal, you will have 1 minute to do so, and I will ask you in a random order so that we don't have to deal with raising of hands and what have you. And so I would begin. Are we ready? Mr. Entrican, any rebuttal?
No.
Mr. Greeno?
No, thank you.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
You have a minute, sir.
I just wanted to make one comment around property tax dollars going to the airport. A lot of people are confused, and there's, many people think, well, why don't we just solve this problem by getting rid of the tax and no longer having to deal with this contentious issue of how do we delegate airport district collected funds for a broad set of uses. The challenge is that the property tax is called an ad valorem tax. It is collected regardless of whether or not it goes to the airport. So if the airport chooses to not receive those funds go back to Placer County and they go back to Nevada County. And that's simply just arguably a missed opportunity to move those funds and have them impact where we live. So wanted to just add a quick note on that.
Thank you. Ms. Odette?
Is this editorial comments or just rebuttals for something someone said?
It's intended to be a rebuttal to anything that somebody said during the Q&A period.
No rebuttal.
Okay. Mr. Devine?
Yes. One of the things that's been said is about firefighting and building the fire break areas. It needs to be understood building a fire break is not the same as protecting your community with air assets, firefighting air assets. It takes a minimum of 35 to 50 minutes to take an airplane that's dropped retardant or on a fire to go refill it and bring it back. When you have it here, fire breaks are nice. But when you have a fire, small fires are easier to put out. You put the fire out when it's small, you have the retardant, and you refill it at Truckee rapidly, and you put it on top of the fire. There's a difference between fire breaks and firefighting aircraft, so let's not mix things up. Let's protect our community, and it can be done. People say it can't. It comes down to leadership.
Thank you. And Mr. Diamond.
Yes, I would. Two things, because Greg handled one for me. I do speak to the heads of agency at our firefighters. They do not want us interfering. They specifically state that if you can find somebody who is interested in having us base aircraft here, I'd love to have them come to the board and speak. The other thing that I wanted to address, Birch made a comment about like we would immediately fill hangars that we built and therefore it would be profitable. The last row of hangars we built were 10. The break-even point on that is 20 years before they become profitable. And the original purchase was $7.8 million, and the payback after debt service is $10.9 million. 20-year payback. That's a lot of fire mitigation we missed out on.
Thank you, Mr. Diamond. And now, each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for a closing statement. Mr. Greeno, we will begin with you.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight. It's been an honor to speak before you. And as I sit here tonight and listen to the candidates, it becomes clear that more or less we all have the same values and more or less want the same things. We value experience. We value years of living locally. We want airport safety, safety from wildfire, trades education, and I'd add the healthy business habitat. The thing that you all now have to do is decide who you'd like to do that work. Positionality is responsible for creating the opposition that exists here amongst the candidates tonight. That is to say, positionality causes us to lose sight of the goal that's desired. Because we get hyper-focused on the position of how to achieve it rather than on the goal itself. Some want to extinguish fire to protect us from wildfire with more aircraft, while others want to create naturally healthy forests to protect us from fires. Those are the positions, while the goal is safety from wildfire. Safest airports possible. Everybody wants it. Elected, I will not lose sight of these goals. I will not lose the context of the goal to positionality. That's what I bring to the table. I'm a local business owner and volunteer, and I'm up for the job. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Horvath.
Thank you. I love Tahoe. I love Truckee. I love that people live here. There are unfortunately numerous examples of ski towns where that's not the case. They often have airports. There's a culture and a character of this place that we call home that just makes me so happy. And I think there is an incredible evolving story of the role that this airport plays in maintaining this amazing place we call home. And I think part of that evolving story is thinking about where our public funding goes. I believe that public funding should provide public benefits. As we've talked about repeatedly tonight, the airport district gets nearly $9 million in property tax revenue this year, yet most folks who pay into this airport do not use it. If elected, I will advocate for maximizing funding for initiatives that benefit the entire community. Things like wildfire mitigation, STEAM education programs, and community initiatives. We've also talked about noise and safety numerous times tonight. This is on everyone's mind and is a consistent priority. To Bill's comment a moment ago, it's a shared goal that we all have. The difference in view is that some claim that the distribution of airport collected property taxes to non-aeronautical purposes weakens the airport's ability to manage noise and safety. I disagree with this. Funding initiatives that benefit the entire community are perfectly compatible with maintaining a safe and efficient airport, and I think the existing board is a fantastic example of how that can be done. Intentional budget planning, smart infrastructure investments, and a community-first approach can increase safety and mitigate noise while maximizing the broader community impact. I plan to continue that good work that the existing board has already done. Let's keep Truckee Tahoe Airport small.
Thank you. Ms. Odette.
I was not prepared for a closing statement. I guess I didn't read the directions right, but I do want to say that I have done this for 8 years now. I'd love to continue to do it. I feel like I have been responsible with the votes and the decisions. I am the only one who graduated from North Tahoe High. Obviously, this is my home, and I have got children that I'm raising here as well. Nothing matters more to me than keeping that in place. The airport is key. There's a number of ways to look at it. Not the least is a huge community asset that provides a ton of income into this community, and not only in the tax dollars that we give back, the jobs that are created, and I know there's a lot of love and hate with the people that fly in and out of here, but they fly in, they spend money here, they keep our economy going, and I am interested in keeping that going. So beyond that, if you guys want me to serve, I would be honored to do it for another 4 years, and if you don't, I'll honor that as well. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Devine.
Being on the airport board means leadership. It's not just about what we do with our tax dollars. It's being able to direct those that operate the airport. Having the background in business, finance, and aviation and safety means that we can direct the board members to do it. Noise. We've not talked about noise tonight. The airport board staff is not using the current technology. We can reduce noise at this airport. It's easy. Why the board hasn't done it, I don't know. As a bioenvironmental engineer, that's what I did in the Air Force. And when elected, I will reduce the noise at this airport, and we can document it and we can monitor it. STEM education. STEM is the foundation of tomorrow's youth, tomorrow's leaders. We need to invest in that education at the airport, and we can do that, but we have to build a community center. It's important that we remember that the dollars we invest today will return tomorrow so we can give back more in the future. We have to focus on building the foundation and using the dollars that we have so we can give back more in the future. The dollars that are referenced in the return in the airport are not 100% exact. They've been misleading. When we build airport hangars, we will return those dollars to the airport. We'll have more income and tax dollars that go back to the community. How we present the numbers are misleading. Dollars that come to the airport will go back to the airport. We need an economic impact statement. We need to have outreach at the airport. We need our air shows. Other board members don't want to have air shows. We need to be able to reach out to the community and share and educate and train. It's about community. It's about leadership. It's not a popularity contest. It's holding people accountable. And when elected, I will hold the airport management team accountable to have a balanced budget and to have safety, because it can be achieved. And we can bring firefighting aircraft here. It's easy.
Thank you. Mr. Diamond.
The Truckee Tahoe Airport District is not an airport. We are a government agency that manages an airport. That distinction is important. We trust our staff to serve the needs of airport users like myself, and they do a fantastic job. Meanwhile, the board needs to remain focused on delivering positive results to the people who pay the taxes that make the airport possible. Because of the massive size of our district, we have the opportunity to connect regional government agencies to serve our combined constituents. We see this with our wildfire mitigation project. We also see it with the Climate Transformation Alliance, which Anna Klovstad, Krista Fenn, and I got started in 2021. CTA recently helped secure $650,000 for climate-related projects in our region. Our district has invested millions in aviation safety and community. We've offered service providers everything they've wanted for emergencies. Our airport is used for firefighting operations when and how firefighting professionals determine they want to use it. In addition to working on Measure T, which I mentioned, I've served on the Measure U campaign for Truckee's Trails, and I founded the Coffee Talk meetings and drafted what became the airport community team. At diamond2024.com, you'll see more than 250 endorsements. This tells me that the community is demanding a lot from our airport district, and I think we're finally starting to see that. When you vote, please choose airport candidates who favor investing your tax dollars in regional safety, because build, baby, build is not a good strategy for our regional airport. I hope I can count on your vote, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Entricken.
Well, I've been in this community a long time, and I'm passionate about it. I've been around this airport a long time, and I'm passionate about that. I believe the airport's a major asset to the community this size. It brings in millions of dollars and hundreds of jobs worth of economic benefit. That's hard to see. It's not tangible. It's not something you can taste or see or touch, but it does flow into our community, and I think we need to keep sight of that. Go to my website, birch2024.com, to learn more. I'm not going to keep you up any later. I appreciate your support. Thank you for coming.
Before we get to a close, I would just like to personally thank each and every one of you for having the fortitude to put yourself forth as candidates to serve this district on behalf of your community. There's not many people willing to do it, and what you did tonight is not fun. It's not easy, and I know you're really dying to get it over with. I've only got about 15 minutes more comments. I just wanted to acknowledge, on behalf of the folks that are in attendance here this evening and that are watching at home, a big thank you to the candidates for hanging it all out there and doing a great job. And again, there will be 3 open seats for the Truckee Tahoe Airport Board. You may vote for 3 on your ballot. Thank you to the Sierra Sun, Moonshine Inc., and the Tahoe Truckee Media, and our sponsors, the Contractors Association of Truckee Tahoe PAC, and the Sierra Board of Realtors, and the Truckee Chamber of Commerce. This program and the forum held tomorrow night will be repeated numerous times throughout the election season. Consult www.tahoetruckeemedia.org for dates and times of the rebroadcasts. This concludes tonight's program. Thank you for being here, and remember to register and to vote on November 5th. Thank you.